This is me at 16. I had just quit learning Chinese because it was too hard, but I still wanted to learn a language, and I heard that Spanish was easier. Then this is me at 21 during the lockdown, having some extra free time and wanting to learn Spanish. Then me at 24. This time I had the perfect plan. I was gonna pre-book a weekly session with a Spanish tutor to talk to them. And if that wasn't enough, I ensured that they were all extremely attractive women so that there was no way that I would want to disappoint them, right? How is it that even when we really want something, year after year, like getting fit or learning a language, we can still fail again and again? It's almost as if we have a piece of the puzzle that's missing. We're breaking out of this cycle. I finally found a way to stick to my goals. The missing piece. It is in a 4-part strategy that I've coined PBAR, or the protein bar that your goals need to sustain themselves. Corny, I know, but it works. I created a Notion template that we will walk through step by step in this video that will give you clarity and help you plan even your most audacious goals. No more quitting. If you're new here, I'm Wilson, and during the pandemic, I created a whole host of bad habits. So, using my free time, I decided to read all of the top books on behavior change, break those habits, and then reverse engineer them to find a way to create habits that last a lifetime. Sound interesting? Consider subscribing. For now, let's take a little hit of go-go juice and get into this template, which I've provided a link to in the description. Okay, so we find ourselves within the Notion template, the PBAR goal system. At the top, I have if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I've added this because I feel like people fall into 2 camps. In one camp, we have the overplanners who end up entering analysis paralysis. We're always looking for every little detail and hack, and we end up doing nothing. And then in the other camp, we have the underplanners, people who just dive right into doing the thing without knowing exactly how they're gonna do it. Either way, we're failing. But there is a sweet spot. Now, I just finished reading Ultra Learning by Scott Young, and in it, he says to take the entire length that you plan to achieve that goal and spend 10% of that time just planning. That we know step by step how we're gonna go about achieving this. And on that note, let's get to the first step of the PBAR system, which is unsurprisingly plan. So the step 1 is to identify what the goal is. And the goal doesn't need to be world changing. For this example, I'm gonna walk through me learning Spanish and how I went about structuring it so that I'm actually continuing learning it. So what am I trying to do? Keep it simple. I am trying to learn Spanish. Then rephrase this goal with a so that I can structure. This will ground it in what it actually means to you to complete this goal. For instance, for my example, I want to learn Spanish so that I can go to Argentina and speak with the locals in basic conversation. Now let's go to step 2. What does that include? How are we gonna break this down into the specific pieces? So take this goal and then break it down into the tasks, different things you need to learn, however else we compartmentalize it. This will take some research and spend some real time doing this. Find all the different alternatives. Make the long list and then make the cuts of what actually you need and what you don't need. So here's a list. I have 3 things: vocabulary, speaking, and listening. Notice that writing and reading are not on this list. They were on their list initially, but I realized that if my goal is really to talk to locals, I don't need to write or read. Now, would they be helpful in learning Spanish generally? Yes, and I'm sure I'll get to them eventually, but for this example, they don't need to be included. So now let's move to step 3. How will we do it tactically? And if you already know, you can blow right by this step, but if research is necessary, let this space be a place to just brain dump. I'm sure there are a million different ways to tackle what you're trying to do, so list them out. And then vet them. Add them in the research, and then when you found the way that you think will work for you, move them into the way column. Let me do a little research. Okay, so here's my list. You can see there are tons of different ways that I could go about learning Spanish, but I have picked 2 that I think will work the best for me. language transfer, and italki. And this was from digging around on forums, going on YouTube videos, and finding who learned Spanish in a relatively short amount of time to be conversational with locals, and then I'm basically following their strategy and then adapting it for me and how I know that I learn best. And if you want to add details into each specific bucket, you can. For instance, Memrise is a platform for spaced repetition learning with flashcards, and it's great for vocab. And then if I find that I want to use this, just take and drag it into the way. So these 3 things are the way that I'm going to go about learning Spanish. Now let's go to the B of PBAR, bite-sized. So step 4 is to make it small. Now we know what to work on, but we need to ensure that it's small enough that we can do it on a daily basis. Creating habits are the real engine that is gonna propel us towards achieving our goals. So in here, we have the items and the description. We're gonna add the tasks and then add a small goal and a frequency. And the tasks basically are gonna be the items that we listed up here, taking these and then getting more tactical. How are we actually gonna go about doing those things? So let me write those real quick. Okay, so I filled it out and this is what it looks like. For vocab, I'm gonna review 10 flashcards per day on Memrise. For speaking, I'm gonna have an hour-long conversation with a coach every week on italki and listen to 1 lesson on the language transfer program. Forgot to add the word every day. And then for listening, every day I'm gonna listen to a Spanish song or the podcast Short Stories for Beginners. Now, a couple things to take away. One is that we wanna make these small enough to where we can do it every day, but that doesn't mean that every task needs to happen on a daily basis. Some things don't require that level of repetition. For instance, my call with my tutor, if I was to do that every day, 1, it'd be way too expensive, and 2, it would just take too much of my time. So I have dialed that back to just 1 a week. So find the cadence that works for you for each one of these tasks. Also, adding in an or clause for each one of these can help ensure that we're doing it on a daily basis, meaning every day I listen to a Spanish song or I listen to the language transfer program. We'll get into that more a little later though. So for now, let's move on to step 5. When can we do this task? And again, it's best that we do these things every day. So map out the ideal day and when do we actually have time to slot these tasks in? And you can skip this calendar part. I just added it because I thought it looked really cool. Think through your day. If every day you're going to work from, let's say 8 to 6, then you're making dinner from 6 to 7, and maybe the only time that you can actually squeeze in some real work is from 8 to 9, let's say. Then make sure that every day that time is not getting cannibalized by anything else and it can be used to actually learn and progress towards your goal. So write it out and try to be a little general as opposed to 7-10 every day I'm going to do this task. So if anything in the evening on Tuesdays or something like that. And also it's best if you pair it with a habit you already have. For instance, 4 to 5 days a week I go to ping pong and I take the train. So there I can listen to a Spanish song or the language transfer program. Wow. To ping pong. And then every day at 11:45 I have a call, which is a stand-up call where everyone says what they've done, and after it's my turn to go, I'm really not needed, so instead of just sitting there and doing nothing, I can practice my vocab. Now let's move on to the A of PBAR, accountability. And this is the most important part. Do not skip it. So step 6 is to pick an accountability partner. Who's gonna hold you accountable? For me, it is going to be my italki tutor. So I would fill in here. Now this can be hard to both find and get into the practice of having an accountability partner. I have found it best to either hire someone, if you can afford it, like a coach, a personal trainer, a tutor, something like that. And if not, create a reciprocal relationship with someone. Take a friend, ask them if they have any goals that they're trying to hit, and then you can have a weekly call where you are checking in on their goals and they are checking in on yours. So you're both helping each other. Now let's move on to the final step of PBAR, which is R, a reasonable timeline. So step 7, pick a deadline with pressure. What I mean by this is if we say I'm gonna do this in a year, there isn't enough deadline pressure for us to actually start to pursue it. So we wanna make sure that it's short enough that we're actually getting that little bit of push to do it. So I will say, and also in Ultra Learning, he recommends that it is less than 3 months for your goal. So for me, I plan to go to Argentina towards the end of November. So I've entered it in. Learning Spanish will be completed by November 19, 2024. Now let's move to step 8. Define success. What does success actually look like? So I have done it and for me, this will look like having a conversation for 10 minutes about basic things with a local. And if I've done that, I can celebrate, yes, I did it. And I guess I forgot the most important part, in Spanish. Now let's jump to step 9, the contract. And writing this out in the form of a contract increases the likelihood that we will follow through. So you write I, the name, what's my name, Wilson, will do. And I've added this or in this task because it gives you the flexibility to do it daily without that stress. If you don't feel like doing something, there's an alternative that can help you accomplish it also. I feel like I need a little more go-go juice. Okay, now again, you can change the actual verbiage. If it's a weekly thing you need to do, you can change this. Then with my italki coach as my accountability partner to ensure that I then take the success metric that we defined in step 8, can have a 10-minute conversation with a local about basic topics in Spanish. You can copy and paste it. I just like typing. And then take the time frame. For me, is November 19th, 2024. So now we have a contract to hold ourselves accountable. So we have someone else holding us accountable. Then we also have this contract written here. We can look back and see when we've achieved it. Like, wow, I spelled out exactly what I was gonna do. That's awesome. And then step 10, this is my favorite step. What is something that you can do right now to get the ball moving? So we've done our planning, we've taken the time, but now we need to actually take action. We don't wanna wait. So what are some easy wins? One that I have written in already is to tell your accountability partner about your plan. So then they start holding you accountable, forcing you to take action. Some other things that I could do, let's say, set up memorized vocabulary. Find the vocab words that I want to learn and put them into the system so I can start to review them. Then maybe download all of language transfer. So if I have that all downloaded, I can do those things all in under 5 minutes. Maybe the vocab will take a little longer, but I think if it's copying and pasting, it won't take that long. So these are all things that I can do that remove the friction and allow me to get started immediately. I don't think there is any way that you won't achieve your goal if you have gone through this list. Again, you can find this whole Notion template completely for free in the description. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll make another video in Argentina checking in when I have hit this goal, because now all of you are my accountability partners. Thank you for watching. If you're curious and want to learn more about creating habits, I have a whole host of videos on my channel. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.